Hello, welcome everyone. It is Monday, July 22nd, and it is time to get in the weeds. I'm Jeremy Lambert. That is SP3. Joel, once again, only here 2 days a week instead of 3 days a week. I guess he'll be back on Wednesday. Not really sure. Claims he was busy all weekend. Claims he was at TNA Wrestling. Didn't see him there. Didn't see photos from him from the event. Don't know if he actually got anything done. So I don't buy any of these claims, but we're fortunate enough to have SP3 here back again. SP3, how you doing, buddy? How was your weekend?
By popular demand, not really. You guys hate me here, but it's okay.
My popular demand is me. I'm the only person that matters. So
my weekend was fairly decent. Watched a whole bunch of professional wrestling, and unlike Jeremy, that's not a terrible thing for me. I love me some pro wrestling. Didn't get much sleep because my bud had to do a SmackDown review on Friday, but the effervescent Dutch Mantel. Then I had to wake up less than 4 hours later for the start of the G1 Climax tournament. Then I had to prep and get ready for the True Hill Heat flagship podcast. Did that. Then I got a call late on Friday by our good brother Rick Ucchino to fill in on the Collision post show on the Fightful main channel. So I had to watch. I was watching Collision and some of Slammiversary at the same time. So I did that. Then I had to wake up Sunday morning, work for the Wrestle Talk website while also watching Slammiversary at the same time. Did a whole review of Slammiversary on my own because everybody was busy on a Sunday. I'm the only person that's not busy enough for the people at the True Hill Heat YouTube channel to review Slammiversary.
You didn't ask me. I watched Slammiversary.
Dude, every time I ask you, you'd be like, you and Joel, I be like, you guys only have time for in the weeds, anything where you get acts outside of that. You got families. I understand. Wow. I got a family too. I was doing all those stuff, doing the Wrestle Talk website and Slammiversary as I'm watching my kids who are better now. So that's good. That's good news of the weekend. And then finally, I'm here. I'm back here after working this morning on the Wrestle Talk website. So
again, I was not asked. I watched Slammiversary. I covered Slammiversary. I mean, it would have been the quickest review show you've ever done. Good match. 4 stars. Moving on. That's it.
No, I really do need to call you for a pay-per-view review because you're the best. You are one of the best that we call on for those pay-per-view reviews. You're still in seriously. You're still in the Mount Rushmore, the Hall of Fame of True Hill Heat pay-per-view reviews for WrestleMania 39. And we didn't get you on WrestleMania 40, so we need to get you for at least one pay-per-view before the end of 2024.
I actually do think if you had asked me to do it yesterday, we actually went to a play yesterday. This play was 3 hours long. It was Fiddler on the Roof. You ever seen the Fiddler on the Roof, SP3?
No, I actually haven't. I've heard of it many of times. Of course, who hasn't heard Fiddler on the Roof? But I've never actually watched it.
Let me tell you, this Fiddler, he ain't on the roof very long. I feel like I was lied to on this show. He was on the roof for like the first scene, and then he was gone the rest of the time. This Fiddler had the easiest job in the world. He no-showed this entire thing.
Did you go with the missus and the kids?
Just the missus. Just the wife.
Okay. I was gonna say if for all of that, I was like, did the kids actually enjoy that? But did the wife enjoy that?
Oh, I don't know if we could take the kids to a 3-hour play. That might be asking a lot. All 12 of them, trying to get them settled down for 3 hours.
You can't even be in the same row with 12 kids. That's 14 people. They got more. They don't have that many seats in a row. It'll only be like 10 of y'all, and 3 or 4 can be in the row before you. It's difficult.
Yeah, this Fiddler was not on the roof very long. We went. The wife's got about 5 million family members, and one of the family members was in the play, so we went to support.
Oh, nice.
That's what we did. They had an intermission. They did have an intermission. It was 3 hours total with the intermission. So
okay. So it's
3 hours.
Hey, that's like an old school Ring of Honor event. Those Ring of Honor events used to be.
I don't want to watch wrestling for 3 hours either. I don't.
You're not even with an intermission.
There's only one thing.
I mean, to be fair, WWE gives you like several intermissions during their 3-hour preview and live events. So.
There's only one thing I want to watch for 3 hours. Fast and Furious films. It's the only thing that's allowed to be 3 hours or longer. Fast and Furious films, the greatest film franchise of all time. Anything else? Don't want it. Don't want it. Way too long. Guys, leave a thumbs up on the video. You can leave a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel. There's the fireworks. Fireworks are like cut off. The curtains are getting in the way of the fireworks. Leave a thumbs up on the video. You can subscribe. Easy for me to say. Subscribe to the channel. Leave us a super chat. Get your question, comment, statement read on the air. Like Caden over here, who says the Shota agenda lives on.
He knows the deal. Jeremy, where are you? You're like one of my main tag team partners, my main co-host that I do shows with, and you didn't even ask me how I'm doing after I was physically, not physically, but through StreamYard, assaulted by all these UK New Japan fans who are on the Drew Hill Heat G1 Climax preview when I picked Shota Umino to win the tournament, and all of them are like, oh no, Zack Sabre Jr. said he's a failure as a career, so if he doesn't win, he has to win. He has to win. He has to do it for the UK. You even had Americans like Jay News and Scotty Edwards. He's out here, joining the agenda by the UK media. They assaulted me because I have a Shota Umino agenda, and it will live on, beating Shingo Takagi this weekend. He's 1-1 in the G1. We're well on our way. And Zack Sabre Jr. pinned Tetsuya Naito. And if you know anything about the G1, that means he ain't winning the tournament now. And he definitely ain't winning at the Tokyo Dome. So the agenda lives on. Thank you.
Do you want to talk about the 9-star classic between Evil and Jake Lee?
I knew you were going to bring this up. I knew if I said anything about the G1, that would be the one. That would be the one match. I was not surprised at all that you commented on my post after watching Evil and Jake Lee.
You were subtweeting me. You were subtweeting me. You were like, I know one of you enjoyed it. The what? You know, I am the one. I am the one in 1,000,001. However many people watch the G1, that seems a little high. But I am the one on that.
Oh, man.
If it's an Evil match, I'm enjoying it.
My daughter always asks, what are we watching? And then I'll be like, what do you think we're watching? And she usually says, wrestling, if I'm watching wrestling. So I was watching the G1 Climax tournament, put it on the TV with her and my son in the room. And I said, she said, what are we watching? And it was Evil and Jake Lee on the show. And I said, what do you think we're watching? She was like, she looked at me. She was like, that ain't wrestling. Even my daughter knows. That was not a professional wrestling match.
It was, as the kids like to say, cinema? Real cinema. Not this fake stuff WWE is giving us. Real cinema. Real graps. That's what they also say, right? Real graps. That's what Evil and Jake Lee was. They were trading holds. They were throwing punches. Why didn't you like this match, SP3?
After I complimented Evil, I was like on True Hill Heat this weekend. I was like, Evil had his best match in what felt like years against Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd, the Stone Cold Steve Austin of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Those Osaka fans want to cheer him like he's a baby face. And they wanted to cheer him because he was going against Evil. And they were like, anyone's better than Evil. But even those Osaka fans just sat on their hands in silence watching Jake Lee and Evil. Jake Lee, the anti-draw, and Evil, the very worst of the worst. What was that match? Like 11 minutes long? Oh my God. Jake Lee, you only gave him less than 5 minutes with Sonata. That's right in Jeremy's wheelhouse. You should have said that was your favorite match of the weekend. It was under 5 minutes.
Didn't feature Evil, though. Jake Lee is kind of not great.
He is mid. I've had people telling me, "Oh, I think you're a little too harsh on Jake Lee." I'm like, I've never seen someone so mid win so many different titles in so many different Japanese promotions. Like, he's so mid. I said he's an anti-draw. Like, people were interested in All Japan Pro Wrestling. What did they do? Put the title on Jake Lee. They went right down to the doldrums again. Then they took the title off Jake Lee. They went right back up. Noah, they were doing well. Everybody was into Noah. They put the GAC Heavyweight Championship on Jake Lee, right back down again. Take it off Jake Lee, right back up. It's like he's the anti-draw. What are we doing?
They try to make Jake Lee happen, and he just never does. It just never does.
I do like his nickname. Calling him the smart bastard. We're 11 minutes in, so I think I can say it. The smart bastard. That I think that was a cool nickname. Cool nickname for him. But that's about it. I can't deal with Jake Lee in my G. Just when people were like, "Hey guys, we don't have the Yanos of the world in the tournament anymore. No Yujiro Takahashi,"
which is lame as hell. Yano is one of the best things about the tournament.
I agree. You put Yano in and you take Jake Lee out. That is good, Greg Carter. The Japanese carry cross. Oh my God.
Ooh, we're gonna have to talk about him here in a second.
Oh man,
it's not bad. Yano should always be in the G1. Honestly, criminal that Yano's not in the G1.
I agree. I miss Yano. I miss having like a nice little comedy match. But the first night of the G1 was a lot of fun. I watched that live. Watched it all the way through. It had different type of matches. Like I said, you had the under 5 minute surprise of Jake Lee beating Sonata. You had Evil actually showing out. All the guys that are usually not the big fan favorites actually had good performances. Like Evil had a good performance against Cade Kidd. You had Great O'Khan. He had a good matchup with Zack Sabre Jr. Then he had another great match, in my opinion, with Gabe Kidd on the second night of the tournament. Great O'Khan. I've been a fan of Great O'Khan since he had that classic G1 matchup with Zack Sabre Jr. where they didn't even touch the ropes. They did not go outside. They did not touch the ropes for like a 15-minute match. That was great stuff. And then him and Zack Sabre Jr. this time having like a brawl. They were having a strike exchange among the fans in the crowd. Then they're doing techers in the ring. That was a fun matchup. He was showing out in the tournament. The young guys like Yuya Uemura, he gets 2 upset wins, but had great matches with David Finlay and Hiroki Goto. So I've been really liking the tournament, but the match of the weekend was Konosuke Takeshita versus Yota Tsuji. Man, oh man, did they ball. They were hooping out there. Those big dudes, they tried like 3 different times to do the Spanish fly off the top rope, but they kept falling off it because they're too big. They're too big to be standing on that top turnbuckle. The both of them at the same time, but they finally pulled it off. That was a fantastic match. My favorite match of the tournament so far was Takeshita and Tsuji. But Tsuji had another great matchup with David Finlay to close out night 2. So really good stuff from the G1 overall shows. But man, Jake Lee and Evil. That's what Jeremy wants to talk about.
It was the best match of the weekend.
Uh-huh.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I want to ask you a very important question that all New Japan fans have been asking. I see it already in the chat. Is Naito washed?
He's taken a lot of baths.
I think that's the right terminology. That is the right terminology. Like I was like, after watching him with Shingo, and when you can't have a great match with Shingo on night 1 of the G1 after someone just had a banger right before them, Shingo was motivated. But like he keeps trying to do that Destino, and even commentary. Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton had to even mention it. Like, oh man, every time he tries to go for this Destino, that's where he's failing. Like,
yeah, not been the strongest year for Naito. I still think like he has a good performance in him, but that's not the norm anymore.
Yeah.
Louis might actually make a good comparison. Naito been washed, but he's old Kobe.
Yo, that's a good compare. He is Kobe in like post 2013. The final 3 years of Kobe, where he gets hurt, but then he comes in, he'll drop like 31 one night, drop like 10 or 15 the next night. Then he's injured for like 40 games. Then he'll come back, he'll drop 40. It's like very weird. But he's not getting injured. He doesn't have the time off that old Kobe did.
He's gonna go out. Wrestle Kingdom next year is gonna be Kobe's final game. That's gonna be Naito. Just taking all the shots. That's it. I don't know who he's gonna face. I guess Shota in your book. So he's gonna face
Zack Sabre Jr. and everybody else. Everybody else seems to be going for Zack Sabre Jr. What was your pick for the G1? Was it Evil?
I pick Evil for everything.
I know.
No, I don't know if I made an official prediction. I did think they needed to go with one of the new Musketeers. I think Tsuji's probably the best option. I think he's probably the most ready right now. Zack Sabre Jr. feels safe-ish, but I don't know if they. So I looked at it as headlining Tokyo Dome because that's essentially what you're doing when you're picking G1. You're looking for somebody who's going to headline Tokyo Dome, and I didn't feel Zack Sabre Jr. was that guy. No offense to him, I just didn't think they viewed him that way. Of like, yeah, we're going to go. Zack Sabre Jr. is going to headline the Tokyo Dome. I felt they felt it needed to be someone who they have to elevate. Going back to Shingo didn't feel like the move. Going back to Sonata didn't feel like the move. Shota or Tsuji felt like the move of like, you got to actually make somebody through this. So I think Tsuji was my actual pick on this.
I would have went Tsuji if he didn't win the New Japan Cup. I felt like at the beginning of the year, I was like, the Musketeers got to win the two major tournaments. They got to win the New Japan Cup and they got to win the G1. It's got to be, but it can't be the same guy because I don't think you're spreading around the elevation where you got to make new stars. Tsuji already, I think, because he had that long stretch of matches and really good to great matches in the New Japan Cup, that's why he feels more ready than everybody else in the Musketeers. I felt like Shooter is the one that needed the long stretch, and he's in the block where he's gonna have probably more than this great matchup that he had with Shingo. He didn't look the best against Callum Newman on night one, but I really felt like that was by design because that was his first match back after the hip injury. And then in this matchup, you had Shingo focusing on the injury and then him gutting it out, coming through, hitting the Death Rider to pick up the victory. So I think that Shooter is the guy that needs it more than Tsuji. He needs to win this G1 if you're going to elevate him to a top spot.
We'll see if they end up going with a Shooter, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, they got to go with somebody who you're going to make here. If they just go back to no knock on Shingo, no knock on Sonata, but at some point you got to elevate some of these guys. And it's very clear that Naito isn't going to carry the load like he used to. Tanahashi's not even in the G1 this year because he couldn't do that schedule anymore. Yeah. Like you gotta, and they've clearly got their guys picked. You don't name these people the new Musketeers if you aren't picking them to elevate them. So you got to go ahead and elevate them through the tournament. G1's the easiest way to elevate guys.
Hey, Uemura seemed like he tried to steal Ren Narita's spot in the Musketeers. Uemura been balling. He was balling those first two nights. And David Finlay, I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit. I think David Finlay has really come into his own. Like people tend to forget that it took Jay White a while. It took him like a full year after coming back from excursion, getting the spot as the leader of Bullet Club. It took him about a year before he really developed the style that made him one of the top guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I don't think that they gave David Finlay that type of grace. He's had great matches. He had a great match his first night as the leader of Bullet Club last year against Tomohiro Ishii. Anytime he versus Ospreay, they hoop together. He's had great matches at the Tokyo Dome with Moxley and Ospreay in January, but really the first 2 nights of the G1 really showed that maturation where he has his own style, where he's wrestling, he wrestles aggressive, he talks a bunch of trash, he's playing his character very well, and especially against Suji, I think he really showed that he can be one of the main event gaijins. It's him, it's Gabe Kidd, and it's Zack Sabre Jr. that you're going to push as the top gaijins now that Ospreay and Jay White are gone. You got to push those guys up, and I feel like David Finlay has really come into his own. He gets hated on way too much, but we need more love for David Finlay.
David Finlay gets hated on because he was in the match with Ospreay and Jon Moxley, and people are like, why is David Finlay even here, and what's he doing in this? I don't think David Finlay's bad. David Finlay was kind of put in a no-win situation by being in that match, and nobody wanted him to win that match, and then he won, and I was like, what are we doing here? And then he dropped the title to Nick Nemeth like 2 weeks later, and people are like, what is happening here? I like how people are like, Jeremy doesn't watch New Japan. I watch all of this stuff.
He watched every. Do you not pay attention to the Fightful website? Yeah, I've been looking up the results, being like, I bet it's Jeremy. Let's do the results, and had to wake up the same time I did, but I get a 5 hour grace now that I'm in the UK. Let me see. Yep, it's Jeremy once again. He's watching.
I'm just not as opinionated about New Japan as SP3 is. That's all it is. I have to watch all of this stuff, though. Come on now, guys. Come on.
He has to. He has to. If it's not going to be him, he's got to do it himself. Like I did the Slammiversary review on my own. I was like, no one's stepping up. I even put out a tweet like, anybody want to join me? Okay, I guess nobody watched TNA Slammiversary. All right, so I'm going to do it myself.
I would have been there. If you had asked me and I didn't have a play to go to, then I would have done the podcast with you. But you didn't ask me. And I did have a play to go to. I would have had to turn it down. Anyway. We will talk more about the G1 as it continues to continue. It goes on through August, so plenty of G1. The first couple of nights are always the big nights because that's when they always do the upsets, and Naito's behind the 8 ball and everything. So that's where
Naito
they
and Finlay, the top 2 champions, are 0-2.
So they always do the upsets the first couple of nights, and then as it goes on, it all evens out until you get to the final nights and how things shake out on that. See, this is also incorrect. Look who does the results for NWA Power on the website.
I will tell y'all. I get told all the time. Oh, SP3 watches everything. I ain't watching no NWA Power. I stopped watching NWA Power. I'll tell you about breaking point. I was with NWA Power from the very beginning, like the feel, like the 80s feel. Love the theme song. Once they changed the theme song after season 1, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm
going to lost all the talent after season 1.
They lost Ricky Stark, Thunder Rosa, Eddie Kingston, LA Knight. They were all gone. I was like, you know what? I'll watch for James Storm and Nick Aldis. And then they lost them too. I was like, yep, I'm out. I think the last NWA show I watched was when Camille beat Serena Deeb for the NWA Women's World Championship. That was the last show I watched. Uh-oh. Am I frozen or is Jeremy frozen?
I was frozen. That was me.
Oh, okay. I was about to say. I was like, he just gave me the look like, oh my God, you're not watching NWA.
I don't blame anybody for not watching NWA. I don't know how much of our chat is just giving me a hard time right now. Yeah, I watch wrestling differently than everybody else in that, like, it's on. I pay attention to stuff, but I'm also doing a ton of work during it. So I'm not looking move for move like everybody else is, unless it's one of the major shows. No knock on these New Japan shows. No knock on it's G1. A lot of that runs together on that NWA Power. You can't expect me to pay full attention to that thing. Sorry.
I can't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But we got We got a lot to discuss. See, I'm going to do the Joel job since I'm here. We got a lot to discuss on today's show. We are going to discuss some TNA Slammiversary. Our good pal Joel Pearl was over there in Montreal for the big events. We got a new TNA World Champion, Nick Nemeth. And did they make the right decision not giving the ball to Joe Hendry? Speaking of Joe Hendry, Josh Alexander turned heel on him. Yeah, new champion with the X Division Championship. So there's a lot to discuss from Slammiversary, but we got a big news item to discuss. You see it in the headline, you see it on the thumbnail. Both Jeremy and Joel were so excited to talk about this that they both made thumbnails about this topic. But the big news of the evening, Fightful Select, our good brother, or my good brother, because sometimes Jeremy likes to say shit about him, but he loves him because he's his boss. John Ross Sapp reporting. Excuse me. We got. You want to say hi?
What kind of toys are we bringing today?
I got that dinosaur coloring.
You got dinosaur coloring?
Yeah.
What toys do we have?
This is dinosaur.
What is this? You have glue sticks? I don't know if you should have that many glue sticks. Let me take that from. Okay. We needed to run it.
Of course. It's not a show if Harlem doesn't do the run in.
She gave me one of the glue sticks. Oh, okay. My missus taking the other one. But yes, we got a big news item to discuss. Sean Ross, Fightful Select, reporting that Bobby Lashley may be about to leave WWE when his contract expires. And then I think Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio, added his 2 cents with an update saying that the rumor and innuendo is that Bobby Lashley is going to leave WWE along with MVP, who has also been removed from the internal roster. I believe that was reported on by PW Nexus. They reported that, and Dave Meltzer says that both men will be thinking about or making plans to join AEW and reunite Hurt Business with free agent Shelton Benjamin. What was your reaction to all of this, Jeremy?
So I'm going to preface this by, I don't even know if it's a preface, but of course, the discourse online is the discourse online, which, people are going to have their opinions on this. Lashley's been off television basically since after WrestleMania. He was supposed to be part of King of the Ring. They said an injury, and then they never really went anywhere with the injury. Street Profits have been on television. They haven't done a whole lot. MVP made comments in Instagram a couple months ago of like, we wanted to reform the Hurt Business. Triple H said no, they didn't want to do that. Seems like there's a lot behind the scenes that maybe we're not privy to. I tweeted last night, Karrion Kross did, and you can say what you want about Karrion Kross. I don't have a strong wrestling opinion about him other than he's not my cup of tea. He did a live stream. I feel like I'm the only person who knew about this because I don't sleep.
Literally, I did not know about this until your tweet yesterday.
I don't think anybody knew. I literally wrote this article at like 5 a.m. in the morning, like, because I don't sleep during WrestleMania week. So yeah, you can check when the article was posted. It's like 4:57 a.m. is when that article went up, which tells you my sleep schedule during WrestleMania week. So Karrion Kross got on a live stream with Bobby Fish, of all people.
My good friend.
Love Big Dick Bobby Fish. Like 3 a.m. in the morning. And he was calling Bobby Lashley unprofessional for the handcuffed comments. Bobby Lashley saying he was handcuffed by creative. Bobby Lashley like trying to like, yeah, we're going to just be done with Kross and the TikTokers and we're going to move on to bigger and better things. And Kross is like, it's unprofessional. Like he said he asked Paul Ellering. He's like, Paul. And Paul Ellering was like, yeah, he shouldn't do that. Like he just overlooked the match. And I thought like, is he just trying to get heat on this match? Because that match was whatever. I don't think many people cared about that match.
I totally forgot until the news came out that was a match at WrestleMania Night 2. Like, I was like, at least Jimmy and Jay was so mid that I will always remember. I don't remember.
Snoop Dogg was on commentary. WWE legend, WWE Hall of Famer, undefeated at WrestleMania.
That's the only thing memorable from that matchup was Snoop Dogg on commentary and Bully Ray as the special guest referee.
So I thought, like, when I heard these comments and I'm doing this article, I'm just thinking, like, is he just like trying to get extra heat on this? But if you're doing that, why are you doing this at like 3 a.m. for something no one's gonna care about? So I had no idea what was going on there. But now everything in the after of that makes me believe maybe there was some merit to it, because Lashley wasn't being used a whole lot afterwards. Cross continues to be used, and I'm not saying Triple H clearly likes Karrion Kross. He continues to put him on television. He brought him back to the company. Like he likes Karrion Kross. It's fine. That's someone he enjoys. He wants to utilize. Fine. But maybe there was something to Kross's comments. I don't know. I'm not backstage. I don't know if there was an out of line thing, and no idea. But now Lashley's contract is coming up. Doesn't seem like he's going to be re-signed. MVP. I mean, MVP was paired with Omos. Omos isn't on television. I feel like Omos should have some type of role as just, he's a big giant. Like, how do you not utilize this guy in some sort of fashion? Yeah, it feels like you should get some role for him on television, but they don't. And so MVP, his contract is apparently up and he might be leaving as well. I think there's more behind the scenes stuff that it's going to be very much he said, she said. The truth is somewhere in the middle. I'm not surprised if Lashley's contract is up that he would be choosing to leave, though. Let's also look at this. Bobby Lashley is what, 48, 49? He can still go. He's still a good performer. He's still in great shape. This is not a knock on Bobby Lashley of like, oh, he's too old to perform. But he is older, and there's a lot of guys that haven't had the TV time that he has that could be utilized instead of him. So I can understand that of like, look, you're near 50. You're not long for being on television. We're just going to maybe utilize someone else there. Like, I understand that sentiment as well. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here. I don't want to cast assertions on Triple H or Lashley or anything like that. Stories will be told. Who you believe is who you believe on that. What are your thoughts, SP3?
I wasn't very surprised by this news. I did agree with, outside of the Karrion Kross thing, which I had no idea about. I did very much see them kind of focusing on Bobby Lashley less and less, where a lot of times, like last year, in the past year, since like WrestleMania 39, he hasn't been used the best. So if you remember, he couldn't even make it on to WrestleMania 39 after, Bray got sent home. He won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Bray got sick. That was supposed to be probably his matchup at WrestleMania.
Yeah, 39, that was.
But I would have thought that they could have found another way to get Bobby Lashley on there instead of having him go out there, show the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy, and then that's it. And then nothing they've done with him in the past year has made me feel like he is that important to the overall plan, to Triple H's vision of what the WWE is. He was put into the group with the Street Profits, where it was a misfire to try to present them as heels because the crowd loved the Street Profits, and Bobby Lashley was on the rise as a babyface. Yes.
I before you continued on that, there's been a lot of, miscast as heels. They shouldn't have been heels. Montez Ford has said he wanted to be a heel. He feels he's a good heel. And then Bianca, they did an interview together. It was during when their show was premiering and stuff. Bianca's like, that didn't work at all. So this is again where I don't want to fully put this on Triple H of like, he was an idiot. He turned them heel. I think that was potentially them also thinking, hey, let's be heels. We want to be bad guys. Montez Ford has literally said, I want to be a heel. I want to be a bad guy. So I don't think this is a full on Triple H is dumb. I think this was a collaborative effort.
No, that's fair to say, especially if he's come out and said that it probably was a thought that the Street Profits of Montez Ford had, that they were kind of getting stale. They didn't have that many opponents on the heel side of the tag team division, that they wanted to turn heel and see what that could take them, if they can revitalize themselves as one of the best tag teams in WWE, alongside with Bobby Lashley, who was successful as a heel. But it was at the end of the day, though, if Triple H is going to get credit, like I say all the time, that anytime that people want to compliment the Bloodline storyline, I'm like, give the credit to Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, because we've all been told they are in charge of that. But people seem to always give credit to Triple H for that. So I gotta give credit to Triple H for the misfire of them being heels, because you're the head of creative. So you should tell them, no, y'all shouldn't be heels, right?
Hi.
Say hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Say hi. In the
Hi, in the base.
Say like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe.
But if you're not sharing, and subscribing after that, I don't know what's wrong with you. What are we doing here?
Who's your favorite wrestler? Okay.
Wrestling's trash. I agree. Just like, wait a second, wrestling talk now? Nah, peace. Out of here.
All right, you gotta get out the doorway so I can close the door again. There you go. All right, love you. But yeah, Triple H is the head of creative, so I think that it is fair for some people to be like, you should have known this. You should have saw that the fans like Street Profits. He's always talking about, I have my GPS and I just go wherever the swing goes, and he make the quick adjustment to make them back to babyface, because I saw that wasn't working. So I'm also going to give you the credit for making them heel in the first place. So yeah, I think that he does deserve some partial. You could spread it around and give it to some of the Street Profits for suggesting that and him doing it, but at the end of the day, he's the one that makes the final decision. They did adjust that. They made them babyface again, but then they didn't really have an idea for them as baby faces. They gave them Karrion Kross and the Final Testament. I am sorry. That is not the best use of the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley. And they were in that feud. How many months was that? Because I know Authors of Pain came back in January, and they stretched that feud all the way to WrestleMania. But the feud goes before January, because Karrion Kross, I think, faced Bobby Lashley in the number 1 contenders tournament for the U.S. title in like December. So this is like, they did a 5-month storyline with the Pride and the Final Testament. And then the whole Pride thing. And I understand that was, I will give them credit. That was them that came up with that nickname, that name for their stable. But literally, WWE did not want to acknowledge that was their name that they were saying on social media. For months, even at WrestleMania, they were Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. It was very weird. It just seemed like they were never the focus. They were never one of the more important things, at best, on a SmackDown brand that only has 2 hours of television. So you could only do 3 to 4 important things. They were always 5th or 6th in regards to what was important on an episode of SmackDown.
It was very weird that they just never called them the Pride. I don't know if that was we're going to pitch this and it was rejected, and then they were just like, well, screw it. We're just going to call ourselves the Pride anyway. And at some point, they're just going to have to acknowledge that we are the Pride, and they're going to have to say it. That was a weird situation there. I don't know. There's a lot that can be said on Lashley and his usage. I think they could have found more television time for him on SmackDown. It's always going to be a little difficult just because it is 2 hours. And there's a lot of talent you have to try to feature. Up until a month ago, people were like, why DIY? They're clear Triple H favorites. Why aren't they being featured more? And then they won the tag team titles, and then they got run over by Jacob Fatu. Anyway, like, there's only so much television time and only so many spots for people to be featured. I don't like doing the accusations of, oh, he's clearly a racist and things like that. Like, that's just because he's not booking your favorite wrestler a certain type of way doesn't mean anything that like that. Like, I know Triple H's history. I know they did stuff in the Attitude Era. I'm not ignoring that at all. But let's not act like booking wrestlers a certain way makes somebody like a racist or anything. Could they have reunited the Hurt Business? Yes. Like, I know like MVP is not helping the accusations when he is putting his comments out there. He seems to feel a type of way about things. Could they have found more time? Yes, 100%. You can always find more time for different people because they do a good job nowadays of giving small segments to people and trying to get them over with that. They could have, and they tried that with Lashley and with the Street Profits, and it didn't work because they tried to make them heel, and then they try to go back to babyface, but they put them with they put them with the TikTokers, and that didn't go anywhere.
I love that their name to people on social media. Carry Cross and the TikTokers.
That's their name.
I don't know. Sounds like Gladys Knight and the Pimps.
That's their name. It is. Just is. So that didn't really work, which that's look who they were paired with. Look who they were paired with.
Color me shocked.
And then after that, they haven't done a whole lot. The Street Profits have been kind of still on television. They're just part of a tag team division on SmackDown that really doesn't have a whole lot of legs to it. I mean, I guess they're going to do they're going to do this gauntlet. The Street Profits are part of that next week. Seems like it's just a vehicle to get the title on the new Bloodline. So there's that. But yeah, there's a lot of the bad faith. Triple H is a racist because of all of this, and I'm not putting that assertion on him because of how he books a wrestling show and the people he utilizes. There's a big difference between the actions on television, and what I mean by that is like what Vince would do when he'd have people say certain stuff and things like that, and just because Bobby Lashley is not being used on TV. Big difference there.
I think that it's a very nuanced conversation where you can't just say, oh, Triple H is not pushing the black wrestlers, he's a racist, or Triple H did blackface when he impersonated the Nation, or Triple H buried Booker T in 2003 ahead of WrestleMania 19 and then buried him again at WrestleMania 19 by taking 23 seconds. That is all isolated situations, and you can't always put that, especially when he was a performer. He's being told to do something that's not on him. But there's also the other side of the spectrum where a lot of times for years, WWE mistreated black professional wrestlers. And it wasn't until we got loud enough and we had allies that were in black loud enough to say, like, this needs to change. And we got the pushes for Bobby Lashley. We got the push of the New Day. New Day had to prove themselves over and over again to even get that push. We got Kofi Kingston as WWE champion. We got Bobby Lashley as WWE champion. So that's why I say it's a nuanced conversation where I do want fans to bring up the fact that, yes, under Triple H, Bobby Lashley went from a tippy top star to someone who is kind of floating around the mid card for a while, and in the pride and this feud with a Final Testament that slowly brought him down into the lower card when he should have been still a top star. I want people to mention the fact that under Triple H, yes, Bianca Belair was already the champion when he comes into power, but slowly but surely, it feels like she's climbing down. And yes, she's helping out Jade Cargill, but Jade Cargill came in as a big-time signing, and now she's kind of in a tag team act where people could tell you, the WWE lawyers tell you, oh, they're building the story. No, they're kind of just establishing them as a partnership. Oh, you did a dress change.
Did she do a wardrobe change?
Oh my God, she did a wardrobe change.
My God.
Oh, you going to the park?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
look at
joy.
that. Go ahead, girl. I see you. You out here like doing Janet Jackson with the costume change. All right. You see that? Yeah, we better see more super chats in the chat. Man, Harlem don't come on and don't get super chats. So yeah, some more super chats. But yeah, that's what I reposted. I think it was AO from Russell Paris who put this put it out there and put the tweet out there, and I was like, oh, you're telling me Triple H's booking is not perfect? Well, color me shocked. I was like, I've been saying this since he came into power that he's not this perfect booker that a lot of fans want you to think he is. No one in professional wrestling is a perfect booker. Tony Khan is not a perfect booker, but it took just like Vince McMahon in the past. It took us. You took Big Swole making her comment, Tony Khan reacting to it horribly, and being called out for diversity in AEW, and then we got Swerve Strickland and the rise of Swerve Strickland and him becoming AEW World Champion. We had Willow Nightingale become an elevated star in this business. We had, Athena, even though it's on Ring of Honor, she's still the face of Ring of Honor. You got Mercedes Moné coming in, becoming TBS champion. We're seeing more diversity in AEW, and a lot of that I will give credit to the fans for bringing up the fact that Tony Khan wasn't doing that. So that's why I'm saying we need us fans to speak up about Triple H and not pushing some of the black wrestlers that deserve to be top stars in the company and put them at that level. We need them to kind of say it, but don't jump to the extreme of, oh, he's a racist because he's not booking the person that I like the way I wanted to. He is booking it in a different way, but we do have, as fans, we do have a responsibility to react to it and be like, no, I want to see them here instead of there.
I'm going to read a couple super chats here. Followed by says, Harlem, your dad is thirsty. Get him one of your special drinks. I guess she brought you orange juice last time.
Oh no. Yeah, with the orange in it. But I think it was on True Hill Heat this weekend, she gave me milk with ketchup and egg in it.
Ooh. Did you drink it?
I told everybody if they sent us $20 super chat that I would take a sip. I wouldn't drink it, but I would take a sip.
Did you take a sip?
We did in fact get a $20 super chat.
How was it?
Very bad. I had to do another hour of the True Hill Heat flagship.
Milk, ketchup, and egg?
Yes. And we asked her what the name of the drink was, and she simply looked into the camera and said, egg.
Milk, ketchup, and egg. Ooh.
Raw egg. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it's really bad.
That sounds terrible.
Really bad.
I'm glad you at least got money out of it. They're smart on you for at least leveraging that. Well, also says, I think some bookers just have their favorites. Almost should be doing more than just reviewing fragrances on his YouTube. Hunter is a homophobe. Homophobe's good.
That is really good.
Chat transfers. I don't know if he's racist or not, but as a Jew, I've always been suspect of skulls, iron crosses, and straight up Nazi eagles he uses in merch. Sorry, your fan of Motorhead isn't enough for me. He just likes heavy metal. I think he just likes heavy metal. I don't know. Meet Normus. Here's a small sack of monies for SP3's young and diverse. A diverse creative room is the best way to book a diverse roster. Meet forever parties. That is 100% true. I don't know what their writer's room looks like. It feels like it's a lot of white men in there, and it probably shouldn't be. Not probably, it shouldn't be. Get some women in there, get some people of color in there, get minorities in general in there. It shouldn't just be a bunch of white people. So,
yeah, and it's okay to make that known. Because, Tony Khan, AEW did do that with, putting Will Washington into a creative position, Jennifer Pepperman into a creative position. It's okay when you want to sign a black writer or a female writer, another one of another descent, Indians, Hispanic, doesn't matter. You can make that known and be like, hey, we're actually kind of trying to make it a more diverse creative room, so we have different ideas being brought to the spectrum here.
Yeah. When it comes to Bobby Lashley and his overall usage, again, yes, I think he could have been utilized better. I think he could have had some spot on television there. I would put him over a couple people that they're currently using right now. Obviously Triple H sees it differently. I do think, again, there needs to be just the conversation about his overall age and maybe giving the spot to younger talent, which a lot of people always want as well. Of like, why are you using this guy when he's 40 and Lashley's almost 50 out there? And the unprofessional stuff. Again, I'm not taking Karrion Kross at his word on this, but there might be something to it. And if there is something to it behind the scenes, I can see where maybe Triple H didn't trust him in a position or want to reward that position. So I think there's a lot of different factors in there than just how did you fumble Bobby Lashley on here. It's going to be a lot of he said, she said. MVP, I'm sure, will be very vocal about his side of things, which I look forward to hearing because I enjoy when MVP talks. He's very every interview he does, he always comes across very well, and I obviously has a lot of stories to tell. A lot of stories. He's been in the business for a long time, very well traveled, so he has plenty of stories to tell. Lashley, there was another instance with Lashley where he talked about, this was like when he was WWE champion, and he talked about like people talking behind his back and like trying to sabotage him. This was again about 4 years ago. This was when he was WWE champion. It was very strange at the time when I was listening to it. And again, it didn't get a whole lot of play because it was pandemic and it was a pretty under the radar interview. It was just a strange interview. And I just don't know when it comes to this stuff. Again, when it comes to Cross and his comments, I don't know what's truthful. I don't know how much of these guys are paranoid or how much they're obviously looking out for their own spot. It's obviously an ego-driven business. It can be at times a selfish business. And so we don't know what actually goes on behind the scenes. We hear what they say in interviews, but we don't know the thoughts of what's happening out here. So not sure when it comes to that. But I do remember Lashley saying like it seemed like people had it out for him. And I'm not talking about like upper people. It seemed like talent was like talking about him and stuff. So I'd have to go back and look for that interview to get his actual comments, and I'm going to do that so I'm not just like throwing random thoughts out there. Go ahead, SP3.
Yeah, nah, like I said, it's a nuanced conversation with Bobby Lashley. I don't think WWE fumbled him. He's had 2 reigns with the WWE Championship. He's had 2 reigns with the US Championship since coming back in 2018. He's always been a prominently used person on the main roster for the last couple of years, especially pandemic and post-pandemic. He's been one of their top acts until very recently. It wasn't until like the beginning of 2023. I thought the handling of the Brock Lesnar rivalry was really piss poor. But that's a combination of both Vince and Triple H, because that feud went throughout both regimes right there. But hey, I'm looking forward. I love the fact that we live in a current professional wrestling world where you don't have to just succumb to the one place that is going to pay you the big money in WWE. If you feel like you can get better opportunities, you could be better utilized during the latter stage of your career, you have another place that's going to pay big money for it. You have a place like TNA that is getting more buzz than it's ever had before, where you could be a top star over there. You have New Japan Pro Wrestling, who might not be paying the top dollar, but they need mainline stars to build up the perception problem that they've been having throughout 2024. And someone like Bobby Lashley going over there along with MVP, who was the first ever IWGP Intercontinental Champion and has a great relationship with the current president of the company and Hiroshi Tanahashi. You get Bobby Lashley in a New Japan, that would be like a mind blow. Even for someone like me, who is like, I've followed Bobby Lashley since he came into the company back in 2005, 2004. And I've been a fan of him since then. I did view him as Black Brock Lesnar when he first came in, but then he further developed into his own type of act. and I did see the potential there. And I was very surprised when he left the company in the first place, because he seemed like a guy that they were pegging to be one of the bigger stars, not pegging in a different way, but pegging to be one of the bigger stars in the company. But then he came back, 2018, and he's had a really damn good run. This run since 2018 until now, if he's leaving the company, has been his best run in professional wrestling of his whole career. He's had multiple different runs, in TNA. He went to MMA. He's very successful throughout his long tenure as a professional wrestler. But this has been his best run yet. And I would love to see him parlay that into another great run somewhere else. And the fact that we live in a professional wrestling world where you don't have to stay under that one WWE umbrella is a great thing, especially because I am always wrestlers first. At the end of the day, I don't care about any of these big corporations. I don't get any money for complimenting WWE because they're so hot right now, or complimenting the great wrestling going on at AEW or even New Japan Pro Wrestling, where I will admit I would be a shill for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Gato, Rocky Romero, if y'all want to pay me for praising New Japan and talk about New Japan, I'm here. My pockets are open. My check, I'll send you my address, Rocky, in the DMs, and you can send me a check. But I wouldn't mind that, but I'm not getting paid by any of these promotions. So that's why I am wrestler first. And all I want to see for Bobby Lashley is him finish off his career in the best way possible. So I am all here for Bobby Lashley betting on himself and deciding to leave WWE. The same thing with MVP, who I feel like he's probably been less utilized more than Bobby Lashley. Like I said, Bobby Lashley has slowly been dropping down the card since the beginning of 2023. Ever since they separated MVP and Bobby Lashley at the end of 2021 into 2022, I felt like MVP, they should have been utilizing more. Like, he had Omos for a while. They teased the Hurt Business getting back together on 2-3 different occasions. Like, he is a guy that is a great talker. He made himself into a great manager in this second run with WWE since coming back in 2020. And he could have been also utilized in the ring for a couple of years as well. But they made him a manager, and he developed into one of the better managers that WWE has had in quite some time. And I felt like he wasn't very, very well utilized after the separation and the feud with Bobby Lashley and Omos.
I can't find the comments right here. So I apologize that I kind of put that out there and then I can't fully back it up with the actual comments that he made. I'll continue to look because it is something that I remember reading and writing about, and now for some reason I can't find it. When it comes, I definitely think MVP could have been utilized better. I mean, Paul Heyman has spoken highly of MVP, and MVP basically is saying like he should be the next me. And Paul Heyman was a guy who, when MVP just made the one-off return at Royal Rumble, that turned into something more, thanks to Paul Heyman kind of pushing for that. MVP should have been utilized more as a mouthpiece. I thought him and Omos could have been something good, and it just never materialized into anything. They did the thing with Brock that was what it was, and then after that, basically never had anything with MVP and Omos after that. The Hurt Business not reforming, and MVP, saying, we pitched for it, never happened. They teased it and then they never went with it, which was very strange. Even if it wasn't the full Hurt Business, Shelton got released. Cedric is now with Ashante on NXT. Even if it was MVP, Lashley, and Street Profits, well, that could have worked. MVP being the mouthpiece for them could have worked. And they just never did anything with it, despite some teases. As far as what's next for Lashley and MVP, AEW would make some sense if they're going to go do a Hurt Business reunion in AEW. Cedric not being there, will they do it without Cedric? Not sure. MVP had mentioned they wanted Ricochet originally, so Ricochet is also free, so maybe they can do their original vision for it. Oh, is that something that's going to happen? Is Lashley? You mentioned New Japan. Does he go there to try to do a run? I think AEW probably makes the most sense if they want to try to utilize the way they want to be utilized. I think TNA allows a bigger playing field for them because TNA need we'll get into TNA here in a second a little bit more, but TNA could use something. They can always use some type of spark where AEW, the Hurt Business will be good there. I do think you're going to run into a similar situation of what they've run into in WWE is there's only so much television time. There's only so many spots. And if you bring in Bobby Lashley and you bring in the Hurt Business and you put them on TV, okay, whose spot is being taken then?
Yeah.
And again, when you bring in people, when Ricochet comes in, that means people got to be off television now. So everybody loves to do, we talk about this before, but everybody loves to do this person's being snubbed of television time. We talk All-Star. Oh, this person was snubbed in the All-Star game. Okay. You put them in the All-Star game, who's out? You can't just keep adding people. People got to be removed because you don't have infinite television time. You don't have infinite spots. Like you got to take people off in that instance. So if you're going to put the Hurt Business and Bobby Lashley on television, that's a big spot to fill. Who are you taking off?
Yeah, I that's why I made the suggestion of a New Japan. I think New Japan would be interesting, but I think that I do agree with your point that they kind of need to be on some type of like weekly television to make the Hurt Business work. So a place like TNA, they would be like instantly to some of the top stars in that company. You can make them into TNA. If you know one thing, they love them a main faction to build everything around. They did that with the System this year. They've done it in the past with the Main Event Mafia, Aces and Eights, Fortune, all throughout Planet Jarrett. Like they've all throughout their whole tenure, their 22 years of existence, they've had a main heel faction that they kind of build their stories around and are the main focus of the company. So they would make a lot of sense. And then you got with the NXT crossover, they would be able to interact with some familiar foes over there as well. I think with AEW, yeah, it would be good for like a couple of months, but yeah, they do run the risk of getting lost in the shuffle very quickly. I think that AEW is interesting with the fact that there are multiple people you could see teaming up with MVP, Bobby Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin if he also comes in, like a Ricochet, who, you know, MVP admitted he originally wanted in the Hurt Business, like a Leo Rush, who has history with Bobby Lashley, and that can easily make him the fourth member of the group. Someone like Powerhouse Hobbs, who desperately needs to get out of the Don Callis family, and he could just go into with have MVP as his mouthpiece, which I think would be better for the future of his career. And then there's the natural story of the two powerhouses of Bobby Lashley and Powerhouse Hobbs eventually clashing against one another, but also you can have him with the group for like a year or 6 months where he's going to learn a lot from someone like Bobby Lashley. So there's all different type of directions that they can go. I'm just happy that we live in a wrestling business that it's not just one option for these guys. I think that's the most positive thing that I could say about all of this, is that I am open to any of those options for Bobby Lashley and MVP if they're going to be better utilized than they were in the past year or 2 years in WWE.
Yeah, there are plenty of options out there for them. AEW is going to give them, of course, national television time. TNA is a strong option where you kind of have a bigger sandbox to play in. If you want to just go out there and wrestle and, show what you have left at 48, New Japan is something different and new for him. We've never seen him in that setting. I don't know if he wants to do another MMA fight. I don't know if that's something that appeals to him. He talked about, he's talked about in various interviews that that might be something that would appeal to him. It's something he could do at a lower level. I don't think we're going to see, look, he's a freak of nature, but I don't think we're going to see him at a high level UFC fights at 48, 49, although the heavyweight division is what it is.
Hey, Bellator again, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, Bellator.
Because
I do
UFC
wonder.
works with WWE. Like you still go into TKO if you leave WWE and then work in the UFC.
Yeah, he was never in the UFC
No.
either. People are mentioning kind of MVP and Chris Jericho, how that works. I don't know how Chris Jericho feels about things, and if that is maybe not an option for MVP because of everything that happened. Guess what, we might find out sooner rather than later on that. But they got options. That's a good thing. We will see what they end up doing with that and where they end up going with that. Yeah, a lot to unpack with Lashley and where he might go. So time will tell. Time will tell. Lashley versus Hager is actually a very intriguing MMA fight. People might think I'm joking, but that's actually kind of intriguing.
I would totally be interested to see those two go at it in a MMA setting. I'm sorry. I that's interesting. That's at least interesting to me. We should note that Cedric Alexander did just put out a tweet mentioning these guys, saying hashtag hurt business, hashtag memories for the it's a picture of him, Shelton, Bobby Lashley, and MVP when they had all the titles. Man, that was a good time, man. We tend not to go back and look at pandemic WWE, but they were one of the bright spots, them and the Bloodline, and that was a lot of money left on the table that they teased us with Bloodline versus Hurt Business and never gave it to us like that. They just honey dicked us with that one. I was like, damn. And we also should know PW Insider put out some more details. They said MVP's WWE contract is set to expire in mid-August, and there haven't been any major discussions about a new deal. And according to the report, there had been some talk about WWE potentially using MVP as a producer or announcer, but that never happened. And there were reportedly tryouts for these roles. And they also provided an update on Bobby Lashley. There reportedly being a WWE contract offer made to Bobby Lashley, but not one that would make him jump to sign. So probably not the figure that he's looking for, the dollar amount or the years, I don't know. And PW Insider was also told that Bobby Lashley had strongly considered seeing what he'd be worth outside of WWE, which is why the original report obviously came out that he is thinking about leaving.
Well, he should see what he's worth, especially if he's not happy with their current offer. I think right now WWE sees him at a certain level, and right or wrong, that's just where they see him. They don't have big television plans for him. He's getting older. I don't know how much they're going to utilize him moving forward. He should see if he's worth more elsewhere. Everyone should see if they're worth more elsewhere. Unless you are happy with that initial offer and you really don't want to leave, then fine. I get that. But if you're not happy with it, don't take it. See what else you can get possibly out there. But if he's gonna go to AEW, then who you taking out? What spot is he gonna take on that? And that's something that they're gonna have to figure out if they do end up getting Bobby Lashley. And we shall see. Wes Oval says, "Morning, guys. Always happy to see y'all. How'd you feel about the look of Collision's residency? I liked it, but I'm hella biased. What'd you think of the esports stadium?" You were muted. SP3 is having mic troubles. I don't know what he's. You're muted. Why are you muted? I can't unmute. Okay, SP3 is not left. Not sure what was going on there. This is actually good. This is actually very good. They're Paul Georging. Well, actually, I actually like that analogy there. You there, SP3?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it was weird.
I don't know what happened there.
I didn't touch anything, and it just said my mic. First, it said my mic had been disconnected. Then it said my picture had my camera had been disconnected. I was still backstage the whole time, and then but I'm back. I'm back. That's all that matters. No, I like the look of the residency. That was my first big takeaway from Collision. I was like, I like this. I like this. It's a smaller, more intimate setting. It did give me kind of either TNA or old ROH vibes a little bit, like HD Net ROH vibes, but the camera was facing the entranceway, which is similar to what TNA always does with their kind of like what is it, the ramp that they do, the ramp style that they do with the entranceway, and is facing like the big screen. And AAA does that, but they always run advertisements, so they're unique in that part, in that factor. But yeah, it was nice. It was unique.
I thought it was definitely a unique looking setup. Yeah, it was dark. You know, that arena only holds about 1,000 people the way it's set up. For the first episode, you would suspect they would draw well, and they did. I don't know what everything is moving forward. It could, by the end of it, I don't know, they're running a lot of shows there in a short amount of time. There's a very real potential of burnout on that show. And especially if you're not going to give them, I don't want to say top guys, but if you're not going to give them top guys, I mean, look, they did that dumb trio storyline, and that was the big hook for this week of we're going to crown new trio champions for some reason. And then that's what they did. And then you're going to give them ROH. They got Death Before Dishonor on Friday. Then they're doing Collision on Saturday. And then they're doing tapings for ROH like on Sunday. That's a lot to just ask people to attend. And you're doing this all the way up until August, like through August. Yeah. Very, very potential of burnout and diminishing returns on this. If you're not going to get like, if you don't have Swerve on the show, if you don't have Ospreay on the show, MJF, if you don't have top guys on the show, I would imagine you will have guys like Danielson and Swerve. It's the lead into All In. You kind of got to get your big players on that show if this is Collision leading into All In. And hopefully that'll be enough to keep the crowds coming back. But if it's going to be the cast that we kind of saw this past Saturday, it could get dicey by the end of it. But look, if the deal's good and they're making money off of it and they're not super concerned about ticket sales, then okay, ain't my money. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree with you. It could be potential for burnout. And also, like you said, they got to put the major stars, on Collision if they're going to do a good house like they did on Saturday. But they also have to have those main stars promoted in Arlington. That is the factor. That is a key factor to this, that they got to have the guys like Swerve, like Bryan Danielson, like Ospreay, like MJF, advertising in Arlington that I'm going to be on the show this week. That's what makes it different from the week prior, from this past week, from the first night that they were there. They got to have those guys in Arlington promoting the show. They got to paper the town, whether it's a street team or anything like that. They have to make sure that it becomes a hot ticket.
Well, when you have Darby Allin and FTR being like, Young Bucks, you guys suck, and you don't show up on Collision, you don't promote the shows, you've completely neutered our tag team division. What do you guys do around here? That's not the great basis of a feud.
No, it's not. No, it's not for me either. Like I was like questioning why Darby would say that in an interview. Then he said it on TV to open the show. I was like, I mean, yeah, that's bad, but I think that you have other things to focus on. That's why I was like, it was another instance like the MJF promo we talked about a few weeks ago, where I was like, okay, let me ignore that part. And then everything else was good about the promo. He promoted Blood and Guts, promoted why he feels like AEW has the type of ownership over AEW that's why he's on Team AEW. That's why he's against the Elite and their hostile takeover. And then he challenged Jack Perry for All In. And I was like, yeah, that's good. These are all good things, but I'm not too sure about that part about the Young Bucks not promoting and never being on Collision, because that you're trying to put heat on the Young Bucks, but really what you're saying is that the Young Bucks or EVPs don't view Collision as important. So why should I view it as important as a viewer?
Yeah, it's a choice. And it's a choice when Blood and Guts is just existing. I mean, this
Yes.
was technically the go home show for Blood and Guts. And if you don't have anybody on the show outside of Darby cutting this promo, it's not a story that I'm like excited for. There's no stakes in this match. They're doing the match to do the match. And yeah, if your big angle on this is, hey, Collision's not important, the Young Bucks aren't even showing up. Like, all right, sure. That this is not excited for me to see this match.
No.
Especially
the other thing they did was that backstage segment with the Acclaim where Daddy Ass told them that they got to take this seriously, and it's just like, dude, I'm not taking it seriously because the Acclaim is in this match.
And if they're not, and if so, people are saying the heat is on the Bucks, they're not about AEW anymore. Sure. The problem is there's no stakes. If Darby and Team AEW wins, the Young Bucks still don't have to show up to Collision. There's no stakes.
I would take that as stakes, that they have to show up on Collision for the whole Arlington run.
Yeah. Like, you guys don't show up to Collision, I'm gonna beat you at Blood and Guts, so you still don't have to show up to Collision. Okay.
Like, what are we talking about? Why? This has been the weakest build to a Blood and Guts matchup. It's great, and it's crazy because I felt like last year was the best build to a Blood and Guts matchup, because the Elite and Blackpool Combat Club rivalry starts in March, and they built it out. They did the Anarchy in the Arena with Takeshita basically turning against the Elite and Kenny Omega. Then they built out for 2 more months into Blood and Guts. In between then, they had the big multi-man matchup at Forbidden Door that was great. And it blew off, and it ended at Blood and Guts. And it felt like the end of these two teams going against each other. And we got some resolve afterwards, where after the show went off the air, the two teams basically shook hands with one another and they basically went their separate ways. There is no guarantee that the Elite, as the top heel faction going against AEW, is over after Blood and Guts. The Elite are not going to be like, you know what? We're wrong. We're now good guys. We're sorry. We're sorry for being dicks. We're still the EVPs. We can still abuse our power, but you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. No, I don't see that happening. So yeah, there's no stakes. This doesn't mean anything. And it had the weakest build to a Blood and Guts matchup, because the simplest stuff they needed to do, they did it wrong. Like, wouldn't we all be like still talking about Wednesday closing the show with Darby coming down from the Raptors like he was Sting, if that was the first time we saw Darby after Double or Nothing, instead of a random 30 seconds on Dynamite the prior week where he's beating up Brandon Cutler? I get a bad taste. I feel like I'm tasting milk and ketchup again when I say Brandon Cutler. What are we doing?
And then Darby is doing a promo saying Swerve is not the leader of Team AEW.
It doesn't even say that on air. He said that. Why does this company put all their best promos on social media and not on TV?
Are they trying to build heat on Darby and Swerve? Team AEW just feels... Here's the thing. I tweeted this. As individuals, they make sense of why they're Team AEW. Swerve Strickland, given an opportunity under Tony Khan, given the ball, ran with it, is now the quarterback as the AEW champion. Darby Allin, a pillar aligned with Sting. Darby Allin is a guy that you definitely want in this spot. Mark Briscoe couldn't get on television, even though because of everything with Jay, Tony continued to push for them. Unfortunately, didn't get on television until Jay passed away. But Mark Briscoe, then face of Ring of Honor right now. again, leads back to Tony Khan. The Acclaimed, thrown together, pandemic successes. Tony Khan saw something in them to make them one of the top teams. Leads back to Tony Khan. I understand, like, okay, well, why you? It leads back to Tony Khan because that's where the genesis of this whole thing started, because he was attacked by the Elite. All of these people have a reason to come together as Team AEW, leading back to Tony, who was attacked by the Elite and taken out. None of this is explained on television.
Nope. I was like, that actually makes a whole bunch of sense. Like, my whole thing was, I thought that Swerve should have been the first person to be announced for Team AEW, and then he's the person
Briscoe was a weird choice.
Yeah, it was like Mark is more ROH than AEW. I'm not sure this works. And it would have made more sense if you have Swerve be the first person and he recruits Mark Briscoe, because Mark Briscoe has that, the story you said, but also he is one of the Briscoe brothers. They've been a part of so many blood wars, steel cage matches, ladder wars, and he wants to choose the craziest person for the most violent matchup in AEW history to be a part of Team AEW. I think that would have made more sense if he went out of his way to be like, hey, the Acclaim, you have this issue with the Young Bucks. I went to war with y'all. I know y'all are battle ready. You're battle tested. Y'all just haven't been given the opportunity as of late. I want you a part of Team AEW. And then you can have Darby just make his way onto Team AEW. He's the only person that Swerve didn't pick. And then the story is that Darby doesn't view Swerve as the leader of Team AEW. But none of that has been said on air. It was said on social media promo, which I thought was the better promo than what he said on Collision.
They lost the plot along the way. I don't know if they ever had the plot. It feels like they did, but then they just completely lost it along the way. And I know injuries may have played something into it. We literally just took a minute out of our time to explain how this could have made sense. If you're going to sub people in and there were injuries, again, they picked the right people. We just said how this could have made some sense, but you got to have stakes to it, because having no stakes on this, the Young Bucks issuing the challenge didn't make any sense. They lost the plot along the way with all of this, and they didn't do a great job of picking up the plot with any of this. So, like, Blood and Guts on Wednesday, the match will be good. The matches are always good.
Yeah.
But what comes out of this? And the biggest match they're building in this is Swerve and Hangman, and a match that we don't know when they're going to deliver on, because they're doing, bless Bryan Danielson. I want Bryan Danielson in this spot.
But both of us, you called that Bryan Danielson every chance you get the GOAT. I've been on multiple different occasions that Bryan Danielson is what saved me from stop being a professional wrestling fan when I was in high school. I discovered him on Ring of Honor. I went to Final Battle when he lost the Ring of Honor World Championship against Homicide, and I became his biggest mark at all the Hammerstein Ballroom shows. From there, followed him to WWE, reached the heights of everything. I've been every step of the way. I started from the bottom with Bryan Danielson. I love Bryan Danielson, my favorite wrestler of all time. He should not have won the Owen Hart Cup. I'm sorry, Tony. The story that everyone's invested in is Swerve versus Hangman. What are you doing?
People are saying everything leads to Wembley. Well, the problem is, maybe the Acclaimed and the Bucks lead to Wembley, but then you got FTR, who are like, yeah, we're going to face the Young Bucks at Wembley. Are we just going to get a triple threat tag match at Wembley?
I'd rather that than them do FTR.
I mean,
Young Bucks again.
I don't disagree.
Like I honestly thought they should do a 3-way with Lucha Bros, because they kind of said that on commentary on Rampage when the Lucha Bros beat Private Party. They said the winner of this want to be in line for a tag team title shot as well. So I was like, get the Acclaimed and Bucks. You're trying to put big matches on Dynamite every week. So next week after Blood and Guts on the beginning of August, I think that's July 31st edition of Dynamite, do the Young Bucks and Acclaim. Get that match out of the way, and then do FTR, Young Bucks, and Lucha Bros, and you could build it up as the biggest tag team matchup ever with the 3 greatest teams in AEW history. But they keep trying to convince us that the Acclaim are in that conversation too. So I think that the Acclaim are going to be in the tag team title match as well.
I think the Acclaimed are in that conversation. I know people are down on them, but at one point they were one of the hottest acts in the company. That's why they ended up putting the titles on them, because they were so hot. So I think in the AEW history, they got a claim to be part of that. And look, I just don't want to see FTR and Young Bucks again. Put the Acclaimed in there, put the Lucha Bros in there with them, good. Because if we just get FTR and Young Bucks, just another straight up tag team match between them, it's gonna be good. They don't have bad matches, but I don't need to see it 2 years in a row. Like last year, to me, it was just fine.
I really enjoyed it. I would argue that was the best match on the show. The kick out of the Shatter Machine. I still remember to this day. And them breaking the save for the BTE trigger. I thought it was a great tag team matchup. You have your opinion. I have mine. I thought it was one of the better matches on the show. But we just got it in April in a ladder match. I don't think them doing a regular match in Wembley Stadium is going to be better than the ladder match. So. That's why I don't think they should do it that close together.
All right. When I say it's fine, I'm downplaying it. It was very, very good. My problem with it is, 1, I've seen it. 2, you're right. They just did a ladder match. 3, it's not a stadium match to me. And I know that might sound weird. This is why I didn't think it was the best match on the show. Samoa Joe, CM Punk, they played to the stadium. Like they had the crowd palm of their hands the entire time. MJF, Adam Cole, I know people are mixed on that match. They did a stadium match. They did a stadium match. Like the crowd was with every single thing on that. The Bucks and FTR was very well worked, very good. It didn't feel like a big time stadium match though. And there is a difference, by the way. Like there's a difference to playing to an arena where the sound is going to lift one way and it's all going to flow in because it's domed, and a stadium where it's a big difference. Yeah, Jericho and Ospreay felt like a stadium match.
I will say another one of the problems to the matchup is that they both, going into the matchup and in the match itself, if I remember correctly, they both worked as baby faces. And the ones that you mentioned had clear babyface and heel. Even Cole and MJF that came in both as baby faces, Cole definitely worked that match as the heel. He worked that match as the heel, and that's why they got as much reaction as possible from the stadium crowd. Ospreay was the heel going in, Jericho was the babyface, but then they worked the matchup as Jericho the heel and Ospreay the babyface because they were in London. So that made a whole bunch of sense. So I thought that was probably the issue of why you say they didn't play to the stadium. It's because they were both trying to work as babyfaces.
Yeah, well, it's very good. I just don't need to see it again in Wembley. So hopefully it is a 4-way or a 3-way tag team match. First, they got to get through Blood and Guts. We shall see. We shall see what comes of Blood and Guts. TNA Slammiversary this past weekend. Joe Hendry is not the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He pinned Moose, and then they went with Nick Nemeth.
That was the biggest reaction of that whole matchup, was him pinning Moose. And then the crowd just slowly was just like, oh, you took away our favorite, right?
Of course they did.
Immediately right after. It's not even like they did like, okay, yeah, we got the crowd up. He eliminated Moose. Then he'll work a little bit. And then, he'll lose in the end. He'll come close, but he'll lose in the end. No, immediately after you gave them the biggest pop of the matchup, him eliminating Moose, you right away have Josh Alexander turn heel and crash the dreams of that Montreal crowd.
Sorry, I should have read these super chats before we got into TNA. No. Shotdown Spurs says, I'm 90% sure they're going to have Dustin the Von Erichs program with Christian, and that is must-see TV. I think that'll be good. Dustin Von Erichs, it's going to be Christian's going to, a lot of the dead father stuff with
all three.
Yeah, with all three.
even though Kevin is alive.
Yeah. Christian's going to get his shit in on that feud. This is in regarding Blood and Guts. Great build up last year. Match was meh. Follow up was terrible. Let's hope for the opposite this year. The match is going to be good. I don't have real doubts about that.
I thought the Blood and Guts last year was great. The follow up
was
that was the end of the feud. That was the end of the feud. I don't know what you mean. The follow up wasn't there. The follow up was they ended the feud. That was the blow off of the whole rivalry. The follow up was meant for Blackpool Combat Club versus Jericho Appreciation Society because you had a Blood and Guts, and then the feud continued for the rest of the year for 6 months. Same thing with the first Blood and Guts with the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle. That was the start of the feud, and then they built to a stadium stampede when it wasn't in the pandemic, and then it continued on until All Out with Jericho and MJF. I think the follow-up was the best last year. The follow-up, the build, and the match were all great.
I mean, the follow-up this year, we know we're getting Jack Perry and Darby at All In. At some point, we're going to get the Acclaimed and the Bucks. We're getting Swerve and Danielson. So the immediate follow-up with Swerve is going to be something completely different. Hangman, we don't know. Maybe he does face Okada, but maybe he faces Moxley. Maybe he faces somebody else at All In. We're not sure. Okada, same thing. If he doesn't face Hangman, who's he facing at All In? Mark Briscoe's follow-up is Roderick Strong on Friday night. So that's the follow-up. There's no stakes in this. So the follow-up is going to be individual stories coming out of this. I don't think we're going to get a follow-up of like Team AEW versus the Elite because the winning team, nobody has to disband. There's no power on the line. They're just going to do the match. That's it.
Do the match, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. It's going to be a good match. It's definitely going to be a good matchup, but I'm not invested in it like I was with the Elite and Blackpool Combat Club.
I'm not invested in it the way I was in April. And I've said it plenty of times. They had something with that Tony Khan angle, and then they just turned it into nearly nothing.
They turned it into a mid-card feud by the time we get to this.
Like, you forget that, like, that happened almost. They don't replay it.
They attacked Kenny Omega. They attacked Kenny Omega the week after. That was a great angle, too.
They don't replay it. They don't mention it. You took out the owner of the company. You took out a billionaire. You had Shad Khan in there. Like, what the fuck is going on in this place? And you don't mention it. You don't replay it. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. Anyway, speaking of stuff I don't get, TNA Slammiversary, Nick Nemeth is the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion because they were like, this NXT partnership, they don't want this guy. He's already been there long enough. They don't want him. We're safe.
I thought I was the only person that realized why they crowned Nick Nemeth, because he's the only one that has gone on record on Busted Open Radio and said, I don't want to go to NXT. I didn't want to go to NXT when I worked with WWE. I definitely don't want to go now that I'm in TNA. So they was like, you know what? That's the guy. Moose already playing WWE games, burying AEW. He definitely wants to go. So, yep. We're going to pick Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth is the guy. When they could have just, I'm sorry, like, for all this, you should have just crowned Nick Nemeth when he faced Moose at Rebellion. Like, I'm just saying. I thought that was what they were going to do at Rebellion, was crown Nick Nemeth, because the way he came in, he had all this momentum. It was built. He came in at the end of Hard to Kill, and it made sense for your next pay-per-view. You do him and Moose, and he wins there. But they did no. They did Moose winning, and then Broken Matt Hardy came in, and they got rid of that rivalry within like 2 months, with Matt taking back-to-back pay-per-view losses at Under Siege, and then Against All Odds. By the time we get to the next real pay-per-view, Slammiversary, he's opening the show in a 5-minute matchup with Dirty Dango. So I guess that's all for Broken Matt Hardy being a top star, being a vendor back in TNA, and we'll see when Jeff is able to travel to TNA shows. I don't know. It's TNA. Like, when I found out the result that it was Nick Nemeth, I was like, oh, so it sounds like TNA is gonna TNA.
Yeah. And they had Joe Hendry. They have Joe Hendry. What are we doing? He's the hottest guy in the company. Why? They give you the little bit of like, he beat Moose. He pinned Moose. Okay. Like they've been building up Moose. It's good that he pinned Moose. But then you immediately beat him. You immediately beat him with Josh Alexander, who turns heel. And now I guess we're going to get Josh Alexander against Joe Hendry. And fine. Like, all right, we're going to get Josh Alexander and Joe Hendry. Maybe Joe Hendry wins that. I have no idea. Because I understand why they're a little hesitant of like, he's going to kind of do stuff with NXT. He apparently is under contract until next year. At the very least, he said a while. I think Sean, the report was like 2025, maybe even 2026 with Joe Hendry. He's like, it can be amended. They did the Jordan Grace thing of whereas like she signed a 2-year deal, but now all of a sudden it's up in January. So I don't say any contracts are contracts unless they're WWE or AEW. Everything else is like they're contracts unless we can work something out elsewhere type of thing. But why not put the title on Hendry? You gotta strike. You gotta strike with this stuff. And for some reason, they went with Nick Nemeth, who is good. There's no knock on Nick Nemeth. It just feels like the old TNA of like ex-WWE guy comes in, well, let's just put the belt on him because that's what we always do. Instead of, I don't want to say they Monty Browned Joe Hendry,
but they definitely Samoa Joe'd him.
There you go.
Because Kurt Angle came in and we had to wait, another 2 years before Joe finally won the world title. So like, yeah, they didn't Monty Brown him. He's not dead completely. And it's bad because I did kind of predict this. I thought they would keep the title on Moose and then try to prolong Joe Hendry's win for Bound for Glory, which makes sense. But with Nick Nemeth winning it, it's like, what are you going to do now at Bound for Glory? Because the natural thing seems like you're going to do, Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander after Josh turned heel in the matchup. And why didn't you do that with like it's those three remaining, Nick Nemeth, Josh Alexander, and Joe Hendry? Like, why did Frankie Kazarian have to be the last person to get eliminated? That didn't make any sense to me either. Like there was this, it was a great. I'm not. This is us nitpicking a bit because it was a great matchup. I like the chaos and the action in the matchup. The match overall was great, but it was just like there was so many confusing things. It's like, why would you do that? Moose being eliminated. If he's going to be eliminated so early, why isn't he not like the first person eliminated? You kind of buried Steve Maclin. I know you probably want to give Moose a win before he gets eliminated, but Steve Maclin, you tend to forget he was even in the matchup because he was the first person eliminated. And then the big moment of the matchup is Moose being eliminated right into Josh Alexander turning heel on Joe Hendry. But there was just a lot of confusion. There was a lot of confusion. Maybe, yeah, I see, 0 Hour saying, Zeno Hour saying, I think Josh Alexander should have won. If you're turning him heel, yeah, probably you turn him heel, he wins, and then Joe Hendry chases him until Bound for Glory. That would have made more sense too, but
they did the everybody come out and cheer with Nick Nemeth finish after he won.
It felt so forced. It felt so forced. It didn't even feel like he was friends with these people. He's like giving them high fives. Yeah.
These people are happy that Nick Nemeth came in here and just won the title. Really? That's the guy they're happy for? Again, no knock on Nick Nemeth. Very good wrestler. But everyone's going to come out and give him the big sell. He worked so hard to get this. He's been in the company for like 3 months. He didn't show up to the first set of tapings because he's working Japan. This is the guy they're going to praise. The guy who made his big debut at Rebellion and then like a week later didn't show to the tapings because he was the IWGP International Intercontinental United States Champion.
Global.
Whatever.
He said all the names except for the actual. No, but he came in at Hard to Kill. He did a whole program with Steve Macklin in between, going back and forth from Japan. He's also been going back and forth with Mexico because he's the current AAA mega champion. And then he wins the TNA. He's gone to all these promotions and won titles. Except TNA was the one that was like gave him the big moment on the pay-per-view here. Because I think even when he won the AAA mega championship, wasn't that like the semi-main event? Wasn't even the main event of the show.
Yeah, and he beat Del Rio, which
notable prick, Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, so them giving him this big Nick, congratulations, Nick. So dumb. So stupid. People are saying like they're slow building Joe Hendry and finishing the story and everything. I don't think they're doing that at all.
You don't think Joe Hendry's winning the title?
He beat Nick Nemeth? Nick Nemeth it would have made more sense. So Joel and I talked about this last week I thought they should have gone with Joe Hendry. And if you're not going to go with Joe Hendry, keep the title on Moose and pin Moose in a singles match at Bound for Glory to make that moment.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going to do.
And then they didn't. They didn't do that. And if he beats Nick Nemeth, that's not really a finish the story type of moment. Like, they're both baby faces. Unless Nick Nemeth is going to be the heel and he's just going to be like, you're a flash in the pan and I've been busting my ass for 30 years. But like, that's a dumb story to tell. Moose, at least there's a story there. Moose is the heel who's cheating at every turn with the system and everything. At least even Josh Alexander, if he's the newly heel Josh Alexander, there's something there. If you're going to do Joe Hendry, Josh Alexander, I'm okay with that. If Josh Alexander had turned, pinned Joe Hendry, won the match, Josh Alexander is like, yeah, fuck this Joe Hendry guy and his dumb little songs. I've been here busting my ass, putting on great matches. Yeah, I won the title and then it got taken away from me immediately. I won the title, then I got injured and never lost the title. And then you want to put this guy over me? No, I was taking this thing by my own means, by my own power. And then he loses to Joe. That's fine. Nick Nemeth, what are we going to accomplish here? It just made it seem like, yeah, again, it felt like old TNA. It felt like old TNA of, we got Nick Nemeth. We got an ex-WWE guy. We got to put the belt on him. Why?
Yeah, it felt very, very much like I said, I didn't watch it live. I was doing the review on the Fightful main channel for Collision. But when I got out of that and I saw our the True Hill Heat chat and they're telling me, yeah, Nick Nemeth won after Josh Alexander turned heel. I was like, so was Josh the last person eliminated? And they was like, no, he got eliminated right after he turned heel. I was like, okay. And I was like, and what happened with Joe Hendry? He pinned Moose, and then he immediately got Josh Alexander turned heel and eliminated him. I was like, so they killed two things at once in the match? I was like, the big moment is Moose getting pinned, and rewatching it, I was like, the big moment where the crowd was the loudest they were the whole entire night outside of the previous matchup, which we'll get into. It was Joe Hendry pinning Moose and then gearing up to give the standing ovation to Josh Alexander. And then they just have Josh turn heel, and it didn't even feel like they built it up right. Like, Josh had not been like teasing he's going heel. Josh didn't show any type of jealousy towards Joe Hendry in the weeks building up, in my opinion, from watching TNA Impact. It didn't feel like they were building to this. They didn't even build to it within the matchup. It would have made sense like if Josh hit like one of his big moves, like the C4 spike on Joe Hendry before that, and Joe Hendry kicked out. And then later on, he pins Moose, and then he's like, oh, I got to use a low blow to use on Joe Hendry to finish him off. And now I'm pissed because the fans here, he should have been like, it's my country. This is Canada. I should be the guy all the fans are behind. Not you. You're a flash in the pan. I'm the heart and soul. He said I'm the heart and soul, and I think he said flash in the pan, but he didn't make it seem like the reason why he's turning on him is because this whole crowd in Canada is cheering for Joe Hendry, not the Canadian. That would have made more sense. There was a couple of different ways they could have been about this, and they just chose to go like just the shock value for Josh Alexander turning heel, and then he immediately gets neutered by getting eliminated right after that. He couldn't even make it to the final two.
I was okay with the shock value of the turn, but then you probably just gotta have the guy win. Nemeth, before the show, like on Impact, he's running down everybody, and he's like, Joe Hendry, even I'm rooting for you, buddy. Like, what? I got a partially torn labrum. Like, I guess they were trying to underdog Nemeth in some way, but he's like, yeah, Joe Hendry, even I'm rooting for you. Like, what are you going to tell of like, Joe Hendry, nice guy. Are you going to now try to heal Nemeth out of this? I don't know. I don't get it. It was a weird decision.
Maybe the TNA thinking is that Nemeth is the most known star, the most known in-ring performer because of his time in WWE, and they want Hendry to beat a guy that was a former WWE world champion and now a TNA world champion when he finally gets the win. I still think the end goal here is Joe Hendry wins the title at Bound for Glory. I mean, I'm gonna still hold out hope for that.
And they've got months to build this. That show's not until October. So they've got some months to build it. Maybe they can get people there. Just some questionable decisions coming out of this show and what they did during the show. Maybe they get people there. Right now, Nick Nemeth, Joe Hendry isn't all that exciting to me. It doesn't feel like that's the moment for Joe Hendry. And well, I don't trust TNA to make that his moment. Nick Nemeth's gonna fucking win that match too.
Dude, it would be so TNA to do that.
Here's the thing. Like they haven't announced a date for Bound for Glory. They haven't announced a location. I think PW Insider said that maybe it could be in the UK. Which, if that's the case, all right, fine. Nemeth's big title win in the UK makes some sense. Or Hendry's big title win in the UK makes some sense. I don't know if I'd have it against Nemeth. Like, this is where the Nemeth decision is just kind of baffling to me. Put it on Alexander as the heel. Keep it on Moose to build to the moment. Do that if this is going to be your crowning achievement for Joe Hendry. Because I don't buy he's going to beat an ex-WWE guy, and so that makes it feel bigger. It feels bigger if he beats a well-established champion like Moose, or if he beats something with a story like Josh Alexander. Just because I'm not sold on Nick Nemeth being WWE or being TNA champion just because he's a former WWE guy brings more eyeballs to the company. They had 4,000 people from Montreal. They had eyeballs on them. You gotta take care of your loyal fan base in this. And the fact that they don't have a Bound for Glory location announced is a little, you haven't told people without telling people. And what I mean by that is, if you had the Bound for Glory location announced, if you said UK, then people can at least be like, the wheels might turn. All right, they're waiting.
Yeah.
They're waiting. But you don't have that right now. So people aren't thinking, oh, they're waiting until Bound for Glory because it's going to be in the UK and it's going to be a big moment for Joe Hendry. We don't know where Bound for Glory is. It could be in Chicago. And then people are like, Steele's going to win the title? Like, we don't know that Bound for Glory is going to be the moment for Joe Hendry. Questionable decisions. At least we got a Montreal. At least we got a Montreal screw job reenactment. We always need those.
Yo, am I the only one that after this show ended, I was like, X Division title match should have ended the show. Should have been in the main event.
It was the best match on the show by far.
It was the best match on the show, and it was redemption. 27 years of redemption for Errol Hebner. Like, that was the feel-good moment of the show. I really was like, damn, Speedball winning the X Division title would have been a better close. And then the babyfaces coming out and celebrating with Speedball would have made more sense than with Nemeth.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. That was a great match. Speedball winning was correctly predictable. This is where I think people knew that Speedball was going to win. Good. Give the fans what they've paid for. They paid to see Mike Bailey win this X Division title in Montreal. The way they got there with the Earl Hebner stuff, I didn't fully need. I get it, but like, it's Montreal. How many times are we going to recreate this thing? They did it in a cheeky little fashion. At least they had Hebner, whereas other companies have tried, including TNA, have done it without Hebner. They're just like, we're just going to recreate this whole thing. At least Hebner was there, and he redeemed himself of not screwing Mike Bailey. It was good. It was good. Glad Speedball won. PCO won as well. Shout out to my guy Josh Bishop, the 2024 Sid. Hopefully he's getting that TNA paycheck out of there.
Dude, that bump PCO took. Oh my god, on the chairs.
Oh,
why does he do, this man's like in his 50s. Why is he doing
that was
this?
uncomfortable. Josh Bishop, don't give a fuck either. Like he's gonna toss you. Like, he ain't putting you down easy on that thing. Oh, and that looked like it sucked. That was a fun match. It was.
I was about to say, I was like, it was way better than it had any right to be. Like, that was like a lot of fun from the moment go, because the fans were very much into seeing PCO, the French Canadian Frankenstein and French Canada, as AJ Francis put it. AJ Francis taking some crazy bumps himself. That spot into the tables was gnarly. Him taking the choke slam on the chairs. He looked good in the matchup. PCO looked good. And then PCO is looking like he's having the best week ever, because right after that, Steph DeLander comes out and asks him to get married. So he had a good weekend.
When we talked to Steph DeLander last week, we mentioned the possibility of a wedding, and it came to fruition. I think that'll air this week, the wedding between PCO and Steph DeLander. Nice. There's spoilers up on our website. If anybody wants to see how that went, you can check the spoilers.
She came back from the park, so she's in the bait.
Hi.
Hi, how was the park?
I got my big Wolverine and Deadpool bus.
You saw what? Tell the people.
And a frog is died.
A frog died?
Frog?
And she said she saw a Wolverine and Deadpool bus. So
I thought she saw the movie.
No. I don't know if she could stay still in the movie. I'm trying to get my wife to go see Wolverine and Deadpool with me.
I was like, good. That's like a 50-minute movie right up my alley. Love a good 50-minute movie. What else? Anything else from Slammiversary stick out to you, SP3?
Yeah, those matches were good. Ash by Elegance, I thought she had probably her best match ever, and I've seen much of her career from when she was Dana Brooke in WWE, but she was very impressive, busting out Canadian Destroyers and Avalanche Sliced Bread. She looked really good. I thought that match was solid. I thought ABC and the System really overachieved I think that was the second match on the card. Had a very exciting matchup. And I was glad to see ABC regain the gold, because they are the guys that kind of should be the stalwarts of their tag team division. And I predicted in our predictions that they would lose and Ace Austin would turn on Chris Bay, because I was like, how many times can you just put the titles back on them? But they put the titles back on them. I'm not going to complain.
They did put the titles back on them. It was fine. Are they still Bullet Club? That's still a thing.
No, they don't even come out to the music anymore. They're just ABC. It stands for their initials, I guess.
What can you do? It was a good show. They got 4,000 in the building for it. It was a good show.
Yeah.
Crowd was into everything. That was a solid. TNA typically does good pay-per-views.
They do.
They typically do good pay-per-views, and then no one tunes in after that.
Sadly, it's sad but true that they are into the pay-per-views, but it doesn't seem like they are into the shows as much as they are into the pay-per-views.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, we have Raw tonight. We have the return of CM Punk, and then we also have Lyra Valkyria against Sonya Deville and Xavier Woods teaming with Otis and Akira Tozawa to take on the TikTok guys.
The TikTokers.
Yeah.
Carry across in the TikTokers. That Raw lineup, I hope they add some more stuff.
They'll add more.
It doesn't seem like the most intriguing. It's like CM Punk and some other things we just threw together here.
Xavier Woods teaming with Otis and Akira Tozawa is fun. That's fun.
I guess you can see Chad Gable and the Creeds maybe come out and watch that, and then that leads to the Wyatt 6 coming out. Do you think that we get Wyatt 6 in a matchup at SummerSlam?
Oh no, Joel and I had this discussion. I don't want them wrestling at all. That's dumb. They should never wrestle.
So we're just gonna have to just do angles and promos?
Yeah.
Who you think gets the VHS this week?
Did they tease anything on social media? They teased stuff last week with Rowan.
The only post I saw was them saying, "There you are." I don't know if they. I'm gonna check right now on my phone here if they have done anything else for the Wyatt 6.
It might be another Rowan one because we got 2 with Bo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, their last post was 2 days ago. There you are, 15 times with Gable holding on to Bo Dallas.
Okay. So they did 2 with Bo last time. So it's very possible that they do another one with Rowan because the first one with Bo was kind of opening up about Bray's passing. And then the second one was more motivation of what the character is. Rowan feels maybe the same thing. We got him mentioning Bray and Brody passing. Now it could be more motivation of why he's part of this family and everything. Now, I don't want them wrestling at all. And here's my argument for them wrestling or not wrestling. They've separated a little bit of the character and the real person with Bo so far and with Rowan. But we also know they're these characters. They're not supernatural. They're just kind of spooky dudes. Yeah. Why are you going to be regular ass people when you can be spooky dudes? Like, I know Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy, right? Like, I know it.
Well, we didn't know that for sure until Chad Gable confirmed that.
Factual.
Yeah.
Like, I know Rowan is the Rambling Rabbit with the mallet. Why is he going to come out as just Rowan and wrestle? Come out.
No, he's gonna come out at Rambling Rabbit, and he's gonna then take off the mask to wrestle.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's stupid. That's where everybody is going is like, oh, well, that's just like their entrance attire. Like they're playing fucking 2K, and it's like their entrance attire is this, but then they wrestle why's Bo Dallas? He's gonna come out all Uncle Howdy gear, and he's gonna take it off. He's gonna be Bo Dallas, and he's slamming the mat. And he's like, let's go, Wyatt's getting the crowd into it. Just be Bo Dallas and keep scaring the shit, or be Uncle Howdy and keep scaring the shit out of people. Why are you gonna be Rambling Rabbit and then be Eric Rowan? Come out with the big old mallet.
I don't think he can wrestle in the rabbit's head.
I know he shouldn't. He should just come out with a mallet and just start squashing people. Nikki Cross, she's gonna be Abby the Witch, but then she's just gonna like wipe her makeup off and just be Nikki Cross.
She'll do the face paint for her, so she can keep the Abby the Witch aesthetics.
It's stupid.
They got to do some type of matches.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. It's a wrestling show.
So?
You have to wrestle on a wrestling show. This is why some people are not into the spooky ballas, because they don't see how they will transition into the actual wrestling portion of the wrestling show.
This is where people are too caught up on wrestling. It's sports entertainment, SP3.
No, they started calling it wrestling again.
What is wrestling? What is it?
It is people getting dressed up into different outfits and grappling and punching and pinning each other.
That's
for submitting each other.
That's MMA.
No, that's not. No, that's not. That's
MMA.
actual real fighting. That's fighting instead.
It's MMA. It's sports entertainment.
Or as Ronda Rousey said it, wrestling is fake fights for fun.
Yeah. I don't want this. I don't want them wrestling. It's stupid. Stupid.
I think the Wyatt Six will have to wrestle eventually, and that will be. And then the bell rings, as I called Bray Wyatt before.
That's why the bell shouldn't ring.
Fair. I understand your point. I understand your point here, but it's gonna happen. So I win the argument. It's gonna happen. You can't force it. You can't forcefully will them into not having them wrestle. It's gonna happen. So
if Triple H is smart as people claim he is, they'll never wrestle. They will never wrestle.
Well, we established earlier in the show, Triple H is not a perfect booker. So
did you know, by the way? You probably didn't, because you mentioned you never seen Fiddler on the Roof, just like I had until yesterday. You know that song by Gwen Stefani, If I Was a Rich Girl? Na, 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 na. You've heard that song, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's from Fiddler on the Roof.
Really?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
The guy, the main character, like, if I was a rich man, da, 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 na, 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 na. It's the same song. I thought Gwen Stefani.
You were popping in the crowd. I could imagine you being looking at your wife like.
I was like, she's like, I didn't know that was a Gwen Stefani song. I was like, I didn't know it was a Fiddler on the Roof song.
If I had all the money in the world, if I was a lucky girl.
It's from Fiddler on the Roof. No, Alex, Queen of the Ring. I didn't know that. I had never seen Fiddler on the Roof. I knew Fiddler on the Roof existed. I've heard of it. Everyone tells me of like, oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's so great. Like, cool, fine. Never seen it. Didn't know what it was about. Felt very lied to that the Fiddler was on the roof for like 30 seconds at the beginning of the show. Then he's just standing in front of the house every other time he appears. By the way, didn't appear very much. The show's called Fiddler on the Roof. I'm thinking the Fiddler's going to be there, throughout the show. He was in like 2 scenes. The first scene where he's fiddling on the roof, and then the final scene, he's fiddling on the ground.
Oh man. This should have been like a whole bit at a comedy show.
The Fiddler wasn't fiddling much on this show.
He was fiddling on the ground. Should have been fiddled on. How was it? Was it much longer he was fiddling on the ground than on the roof? Or was it equal amount?
About equal. Okay. Yeah, about equal. Maybe a
little bit more. Why isn't it just called the Fiddler?
I don't know. The Fiddler has nothing to do with this. The Fiddler is not essential to the story.
There you have it.
Non-essential.
We do need more reviews of Jeremy about Broadway content. And that is a brilliant idea I saw earlier in the chat. Someone said MILF Manor on Broadway. Me and Jeremy would write it. I've actually been me and the missus actually been catching up on the past season of MILF Manor.
This season wasn't as good as last season.
This seems to be a theme with Perfect Match and MILF Manor. Like it's
tough to top the original. It's tough.
It's like it's so tough, man. They should have. It's nothing like 90 Day Fiance. 90 Day Fiance, it just gets better. Just gets better. This one, not so much. It's not as good as that first season. I think it's because they're not their sons. They're not the sons of the other people in the house, which causes conflict in more different ways than we're just going after the same guy.
Wife just messaged me. The way you're yelling about the fiddler makes you seem like you're as mad talking about a villain like the Riddler. The Riddler? There was plenty of riddles in this show. The Riddler makes more sense than the fiddler.
Oh man! And you can always figure out the Riddler's clues. And Batman was always good at putting them all together. So I've seen a couple of Broadway shows. I've seen Wicked. I saw Lion King. I saw Aladdin. Okay. I thought Aladdin, the black genie that they had on Broadway for Aladdin, one of the better actors I've seen on a Broadway show. Good one.
I've seen Beauty and the Beast, and I've seen
Didn't see that.
The Book of Mormon. Those are.
I wanted to see The Book of Mormon, but that was like when I saw all these shows when I was a concierge, and it was because we had to go to like certain plays to sell the tickets when I was a concierge in New York. So I got like free tickets to go to these shows, but I did not get Book of Mormon. My sister actually got us tickets for Hamilton. Hamilton by far is the best Broadway show I've ever seen.
Never saw it.
Yeah,
I know
it's because it was a whole bunch of hip hop songs. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Hamilton. I ain't watching these shows unless I wanted to see Book of Mormon because it was from Matt Stone, Trick Parker. Like I had to kind of see that one. It's got some banger songs on there. Banger songs on Book of Mormon. Anyway, Fiddler on the Roof, everybody. Go see it if you would like. I don't know. Just don't expect much fiddling on the roof. That's all I'm saying.
You're going for the fiddling on the roof. You're going to be disappointed.
Going to be very disappointed. They got some good songs on there, though. Some good songs.
There you go. If I Was a Rich Girl or Rich Man. See?
Yeah, that's apparently not a Gwen Stefani song. Learn something new.
Oh, no,
SP3, great. Let everybody know where they can find you at.
Find me right here, True Hill SP3 on your Twitter machine. I will be back on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel probably later today. I got messages as we were doing this, probably at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. That's late for me. That's 9 o'clock here, but gotta love my co-hosts over at True Hill Heat. Not considering that I'm 5 hours ahead of them and doing other stuff when we're supposed to do the podcast at 7, which is doable. But no, 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. You see me and Sober Guy JJ reviewing AEW Collision on Collision Discourse, or maybe I might do it earlier without him. Who knows? But subscribe and you'll figure it out.
We didn't even talk about Hologram. It's Aramis, everybody. Can we stop with it's this person, it's that, it's Aramis.
That was a really good debut, and they picked the perfect person for him to go against.
Yeah, Gringo Loco. I feel like Aramis and Gringo Loco have probably had about 20 matches together as well, so they knew each other. You can't go wrong putting Gringo Loco in there with a luchador. Like, wait a second.
Absolutely not. I was like, they said, oh, that's the only person they could have put him in. No, AEW right now has 3 of my 4 Mount Rushmore of base gods. It's Gringo Loco, Claudio Castagnoli, and Beast Mortis. Because Beast Mortis versus Darby was a great matchup to open the show. With Beast Mortis, the fact that he does that press slam off the top rope is always ridiculous. But Hologram looked really good. Loved his finisher. That portal bomb,
portal bomb.
which
that was pretty sweet.
Great choice for a name. Great choice for a name, first of all. And then it's basically airplane spin, Blue Thunder Bomb. And the Blue Thunder Bomb won a match. So that popped me. That popped me. So great debut for him. It's all about the follow-up, though, with anybody that comes into AEW, especially if you're a luchador, because we've had Commander and guys like that. We've had, Hijo del Vikingo, who came in, had the great debut with Kenny Omega, and then it was a law of diminishing returns as far as like how much focus he was getting because he was still signed to AAA. This one is different because you signed him, you gave him a character that Tony Khan apparently has been working on for 4 to 5 years, according to reports. So you got to do something follow up, and it's all about putting him against some of your top stars and establishing him as one of like at least an elite mid-carder or a top star in the company. So I hopefully they follow up with him. And I agree with everybody in the chat. Gringo Loco, you got to sign him. Like he's done this with Vikingo on AEW ROH television. He's done this with Hologram. Sign that guy because he is so talented as a base for these luchadors.
Gringo Loco and Aramis have wrestled 26 times over the past 4 years. They know each other pretty well. Everyone can see the rematch between Gringo Loco and Hologram at ROH Death Before Dishonor this Friday.
I would not be surprised, and we should not say it on Fightful Television. I see Kate's in the chat, and she knows. We say stuff on Fightful YouTube. It usually happens because me and Kate spent like 5 to 10 minutes talking about how Diamante and Layla Hirsch was so good, it should have been on the pay-per-view on Friday. And then, 2 days later, Tony Khan's like, hey, Texas Deathmatch.
SP3.
Thanks, Tony.
SP3, thank you as always. We'll be back on Wednesday. Joel will allegedly be here. Not sure if that's true or not, but he will allegedly be here. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a thumbs up on the video. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or whatever, give us a good review. Leave a 5-star, 6-star, 7-star review. We'll be back on Wednesday, everybody. Goodbye.